Welcome everyone to a League of Legends gameplay analysis where we're going to be on the red team playing Cho'Gath. We're going top lane in this game and deciding to pick up a Doran's Blade and a single health potion. Now, my reasoning behind picking up the Doran's Blade opposed to the standard Doran's Ring is because I'm starting with my E, it gives me a slight amount of sustain with the 3% lifesteal that I can sustain back small amounts of harass, which will help me get through the early laning phase, which I feel Cho'Gath somewhat struggles in. Cho'Gath is really a late game champion, who really is powerful in terms of his instant death ultimate. It's a really good executioning tool, and his incredible amounts of CC with his knockup and his silence. Not only that, but he does a considerable amount of damage, more than what you would assume most tanks would do. The true damage on his ultimate is just a really crazy way to finish someone off, and a lot of the times people won't expect it, especially if you have 40% CDR. Now, right now, I'm just waiting for the minions to get to lane, and as soon as that happens, I'm going to begin CSing. Cho'Gath doesn't actually have trouble CSing. He has a slightly higher base attack speed than some other melee top laners. Though I am being a little bit careless when CSing. Right now, I'm trying to position myself so the projectiles coming off of my E are angled to hit the Jax. Now, a lot of the times I'm missing, but you can see there that it does do a good amount of damage. Now, right here, I'm zoning the Jax from getting some of the creeps from the creep wave, and I use my W here, which is going to be my second spell. To finish off those two creeps, which otherwise I would have missed one or the other. I get W second primarily because I'm laning against the Jax. So if he got his E first and then his Q, I could silence him with my W to prevent him from jumping onto me, which will therefore make it so I don't get stunned and I can continue to put damage onto the opposing Jax. Now, I whiff my Q there as the Jax hops onto me. I really wasn't expecting that, but now I know somewhat where to predict putting my Qs. Now, I get a good knock up there, and I harass him a little bit more with the W. And he is right now being bullied out of lane. He's not backing, even though he has teleport. Though I'm getting somewhat low on mana here. So, on the slight occurrence that the Fiddlesticks decided to start red and was at the blue side at the time, I wanted to be able to maybe steal blue or make my opponents feel like I was roaming mid, which would seem a bit early, but it does create that little bit of uncertainty for the opposing team, not knowing where I am on the map. So I'm trying to continue to zone the Jax off of my own cannon minion, by preventing him from access to the cannon minion. He is going to lose quite a bit of CS. Now, now that the wave is going into the tower, I no longer am able to shield the cannon minion, but I see a Mumu getting in a little bit of a skirmish with the Fiddlesticks, and I get the knockup and the silence on the Fiddlesticks, so he doesn't fear me away. Though my silence was late, I still was able to finish him off with an ignite. The ignite was the highest range spell that I had on cooldown. So I just got the ignite to hopefully make sure that it didn't get away, because Fiddlestick's movement speed is higher than Cho'Gath's and Amumu's. So just confirming that kill is important in my mind. Now I'm just continuing to try and zone off this Jax. He really hasn't touched me by this point, and now that I have my level 6, I see that the Jax is quite low. So instead of ulting a creep like I would usually at this point, I am waiting for my mana to regen to a point where I can knock up, silence, and then devour him. Now I'm hiding in the bush, not only to try and make the Jax think that I backed, but also to prevent him from going into the bushes himself. Face checking is a little bit of a risky move to make at this point, because he is behind in CS, he is behind in general. Though jumping onto me wasn't a really good idea at this point, because now I'm able to get him low enough so the true damage from my Devour will finish him off. And now that I'm not actually going to go back completely. I'm going to see that there's some CS to go be had, but I decide to let that CS die, and I can start working on getting a Rod of Ages. I grab both the Catalyst of Aeons and or Eons and a Blasting Wand. Now, knowing that the Jax does have TP, I'm trying to take advantage of his death timer to not only get the new items, but so I can get back to lane without losing too much CS. Now, I'm really trying to look for openings on the map to see if I can continue my presence, but the fact that I chose to take Ignite opposed to Teleport, it really made it difficult for me to have some of those options available to me, like teleporting bot lane and getting a 4-man gank there, or roaming to mid lane is still an option, though. Though I find it to be kind of easy to continue to bully this Jax, knowing that Jax is a really good split pusher. I don't want to give him the freedom to take out that tower. I should have waited probably another moment or so to place down my ward, so that the Jax with the dissipating vision wouldn't know that there's a ward in that bush. Not only would it maybe give me a slightly higher advantage to prevent ganks, but it would also allow me to attack the jungler. The Fiddlesticks is significantly squishy at this time, so my ultimate will significantly chunk him. Now, just seeing me here, the Jax is immediately going to try and do damage to me, so I'm going to knock him up during the duration of his stun. Now, a mistake that the Jax made here is using his ultimate that late. I could have most likely die if he had used his ult sooner. But I flashed away knowing that it would have been a trade, and I would have died there. But because the Jax is melee and I knew that his Q was on cooldown, I flash away to let the Ignite finish him off. Now, trying to get some damage onto the tower here. I get a good chunk of the tower. And I'm just waiting to get another stack of feast before I go back. Now, I did miss that CS there. If I hadn't canceled my auto, I probably could have gotten both of them. But the small things really can add up in more difficult games. Games where you're behind and you really need that extra 20 gold, that extra 30 gold. So, I see the Fiddlesticks is roaming towards me, so I meet him in the river, and I just completely devour him. Now, something that probably could have allowed us to get this Jax here is if the Amumu had bandage tossed or have ulted maybe slightly earlier before the Jax had time to flash. It would have had the possibility of catching him even after the flash had occurred. He would be stunned outside the range of the ult. At least that has occurred before in some games of mine. Now I'm trying to dive this Jax, knowing that with the 6 stacks of feast that I currently have, I am significantly tanky. And I can afford to take 1 or maybe 2 tower shots, but I don't want to take too many tower shots, as the tower's damage does escalate quite quickly and it can be devastating for me. Now I'm realizing that it's beginning to become late game, or not late game, mid game, and I find a good opportunity to take on the Jax, but I do see the Fiddlesticks, so I'm my attention is divided, and I'm not sure if I should dive the Jax because the Fiddlesticks might finish me off. But if I had used my Q slightly earlier, I may have been able to get the Jax there. That was a poor decision on both of our hands, and it could have resulted in an extra kill on my part. Or he could have prevented that chance of even happening. Now, I see that the opposing Fiddlesticks blue buff is up, and realizing that he has the wolf spirit warding the entire area, I'm waiting right outside the buff camp. I did make sure to ward, so I do know how far he is on the blue buff. I get the knock up while he's in the bush, and I'm able to easily just finish off the blue buff here. He might have been able to smite it and then run away. I'm not sure if he smited. Let me know in the comments below if you did see him smite. But now I am trying to redirect my focus onto this Jax. One thing about Cho'Gath's E is it does actually go through Jax's E. The projectiles don't count as auto attacks, so they're not dodged, which I feel is a really good tool to abuse in this matchup. There's not really any downsides that I can see in this current matchup, unless you're sieging a turret and you don't want the extra projectile damage to activate turret aggro, but that's really only something that occurs in low levels. Now, right there, that was probably the most worth flash that I've seen occur at this early stage of the game, because if that Ari didn't flash right then and there, both the Amumu bandage toss and my rupture would have probably evented in the death of that Ari, which with this team already being significantly behind, they do not want to risk any more losses in terms of gold deficit. We are leading them by about 8,000 gold. Now, that is a significant number. 8,000 gold is enough to buy, I think, like a Rabadon's death cap for the entire team. Not saying that I would ever advise my team to get 5 Rabadon's death caps, but 8,000 gold is significant, and actually that would not be able to buy 5 Rabadon's death caps. I would only be able to buy about just over 2. Now that I'm actually thinking of the numbers properly. Now, I was trying to reduce the hit points of those minions while I was taking down the turret, but now here I was just roaming down to the mid lane because I saw a team fight going on in the bottom jungle, and I just so happened to come across the Fiddlesticks there and got a quick kill there. And by the time that Jax backs off, I realize that the small skirmish is over, and I just decide to back. I'm able to get a few items here. I grab the Frozen Heart, and I finish off my Rod of Ages. Sadly, the Rod of Ages, I got kind of late. I would have been able to get it to stack more, which would have helped with some of my mana deficiencies that I will have. But we are already so ahead that it really doesn't affect me that much. Now, I'm trying to get a good position on to this misfortune, and while she's ulting, excuse me, while she's ulting, I decide to get the rupture off on her to disrupt her ultimate. That is a good way to finish off her ultimate early. Now, I waited in front of the bush for a second or two to try and see if they were baiting in the bush or anything, because I did not see the target at the time on the minimap. I placed the ward there to try and get a little bit of ward baiting going on. I'm taking significantly more tower shots than I wanted to, so I decided to flash. The flash was most likely not even needed. I do steal the kill from the Yasuo, but I do get a double kill from that. Now the Fiddlesticks just breezes by us, and I do miss my rupture there, but funnily enough, it just appears that silencing the Fiddlesticks in the middle of his drain will actually reduce the time in the drain, which is something that maybe he just canceled it, but to my knowledge that does, I've never known that to be an occurrence. Now I'm roaming bot lane because I did see the Taric recently, so I'm deciding to go down to the actual inhibitor turrets to try and locate the Taric. I find a good minion wave here that I can take down. My W misses that couple of creeps. I am trying to help Siege with the Sivir, who is also doing significant amounts of damage to the opposition. But here we find that it's a really easy tower to take, and we find it to be pretty much a decisive win by this point. There's nothing really that the opponent's team can do by this point to win. If I hadn't hesitated here, I might have been able to get the Fiddlesticks. There's just a few things that maybe could have made this win even more decisive. Not that it was needed at all. Seeing that the Tark is pulling off his ultimate now, I'm deciding to back off. My health is significantly reduced. I could easily die at this point. I just want to get out of here. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to finish getting my boots. But seeing that the Misfortune decided to overextend herself, I'm just going to eat her right up. And don't take that the wrong way. I'm just going to devour the Misfortune. Is there any way to describe using Cho'Gath's ult on a Misfortune without it sounding slutty? But I'm just going to say that this was a really good game. It was really decisive. I made quite a few decisions that